Hello. Today's episode number 76 of the Professor Slots podcast includes special events winning slot strategies, as well as a slots-related question and answer session. Plus, in this episode, I'll be covering the current state of slot machine casino gambling in the great U.S. states of Indiana and Iowa. Thank you for joining me for the Professor Slots podcast show. I'm John Friedl, and this is a podcast about slot machine casino gambling. It is where I provide knowledge, insights, and tools for helping you improve your slot machine gambling performance. In case you missed it, on my last episode, I went over how American Prohibition was the golden age of slot machines. Further, I reviewed Idaho and Illinois slot machine casino gambling in 2019. I hope you enjoyed listening to my last episode as much as I enjoyed making it for you. Remember to visit ProfessorSlots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Here's the audio recording of my latest live Q&A session. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody who's currently on the live stream, as well as those that will watch later, as well as those that will listen only later on the podcast, because I'll turn this into part of a podcast that should come out 7 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, Sunday. And if you care to listen again while you're driving, perhaps. It's harder to watch video when you're driving. But welcome to everybody. Today is my 12th, 12th, Q&A, live Q&A. And, Dana says, I have a beautiful wall. Do you mean the wall behind me? Because it cost far more. It cost far more than the actual home did. So the top row of photos behind me are graduate degrees. The center one is a doctorate in aerospace engineering. The next below that are master's degrees or bachelor's degrees. And the ones below that are associate's degrees, because what the heck? It's not like it's hard. Thank you, Dana. But getting back to what I wanted to talk about today, people have an interest in winning slot strategies. Just to kind of introduce this to the people who don't know, there have been casino business practices since slot machines were started, 1888, but really took off with American Prohibition in 1920 because they went into the speakeasies and it just became the golden age of slots. I talked about that last week. But when we started having casinos, I don't want to call the speakeasies casinos necessarily, but when we started having electromechanical devices from Bally's, the pinball maker, back in the 70s, there began to be ways that you can cheat. I'm sure there was before, but there was ways that you can cheat right up into the modern era. And it still exists in some places, but what the casino would do is, what I offer isn't about making you lucky. It's about looking at what casinos are doing and turning it on its head. You might call it advantage plays, is a term that does apply for slots. And if you want to take advantage of what the casino is doing, and one of those casinos is take a slot machine that's seen from a great distance. Those of you who've been here for a while know this. Those that can be seen from a great distance can in the casino or near a busy area are often ones that the casino itself chooses to have higher odds of winning. So people will win there and be seen to win there, and people get a good feeling about being in the casino and run to another slot machine and lose their money. So win-win for some people. But I say look for that one. And that's always been the case. They don't do it. Casinos don't do it all the time because it is on a budget, but they would choose to turn those odds up sometimes. And that's always been true since the 70s. But then they made things automated. There was a second winning strategy that I hardly ever talk about because it no longer really exists except at the older style casinos. I put it in my book. If you pick a slot machine which has multipliers or a second round, perhaps a spin, like on a Wheel of Fortune spin, you can win the spin. Slot manufacturers had a hard time controlling the odds on the unusual aspects of that machine. You would win the appropriate number of times according to the settings, but they'd be multiplied. And when they're multiplied, you'd win more than you, and the slot manufacturers just couldn't quite control slot machines well enough in the 70s and 80s in order to be able to make that more accurate. With the newer slot machines, in the newer casinos, that became something that went away. There are plenty of older style casinos out there. You would think that they would all be modernized with a central computer, cables. It allows daily performance metrics. You can reduce their workforce that has to go out there and change the odds, so often. And they're, that's a huge savings and a huge advantage, both, for a casino to do that. Why wouldn't they do that when it came out 8 years ago? When the technology started coming out 8 years ago. Why wouldn't they? The reason why they wouldn't do this is they can't. Missouri, Illinois, Indiana are mostly riverboat casinos. You can't put bundles of wires under the floor. That's the hull of a boat. It's water down there. I should say a barge, technically a moored barge. And it might not be much water down there. It might be just a muddy basin. But nevertheless, there's no under the floor. Under the floor is water. So they can't upgrade, except some of the gaming regulations. The gaming regulations are being improved in, for instance, Illinois. That's going to be something. Honestly, that is going to be the Las Vegas of the Midwest is what they're looking at. This is just early indications. They've made some changes in the gaming regulations. We should see them soon, but buildings take time to build. And so Hard Rock is coming into Rockford, which is almost a suburb of Chicago. 6 casinos are going to go in downtown Chicago. And then you've got all the riverboats no longer having to be riverboats and no longer limited to 1,200 slots at a facility. So big boom. I'm going to check through the chat messages. So in a moment. And this is kind of what I talk about. This is the winning advantages with these newer style games. I have some things that work in the older style casinos, but more and more we're having modern casinos. And casino owners are doing things, I call it tinkering. They're tinkering with the system. And that means that the morning has different odds from the afternoon, which has different odds from the evenings. And our job becomes which one is better odds. And we just start figuring this stuff out. There's others. And today I'll talk about 2 specific ones. Let me check through the chat to see if there's anything urgent for now. Larry, I'm glad it's not too late. 7 p.m. Excellent. Let's see. Denise, Fort Worth, Texas. Excellent. Let's see. Robert. Hi, Robert. Good to see you. Is it so simple that they simply turn the odds up on one machine at any time they want? Yes. It's on a budget and they have a purpose. It's important to understand why, because if you understand why they do it, then you can, understand when they do it, or maybe even which machine. Like, for instance, if they have a big promotion where everybody's going to be there at the casino because they invited them, they're not doing it that day. Right? They've already got another method where they're getting people there. So you can not waste money on those days. Also, if they have turned the odds up, they're turned up. Okay. That means you should seriously consider taking somebody with you. I talk about this in my book. You should seriously consider taking somebody with you to the casino because you don't want to give up that machine. Once it's on, it's on. Stay. Don't go to lunch. Don't take a restroom break. Stay, because you could lose it and you're winning. Also, a little bit more complicated of a discussion is if you take your player's card out and a machine is idle. Both those things have to happen. The earliest information I had was if it's been idle for 15 minutes, the odds could be changed remotely. But no slot technician is going to come along and open the door and change the odds like they do in older style casinos. But lately I've heard it's 2 minutes. So basically, don't take your card out if you've got a winning machine. That means no rest breaks, no going for food. It's almost like one of those poker tournaments, right? 12 hours being awake, focused, like that. If you have questions about it, do let me know. Catherine, hello. Philly T, welcome. Hello. Excellent. So, right. What I wanted to talk to you about today, and let me see if I can quickly check excellent feeds. Okay. So I think I'm looking not too bad. So I'm going to, those of you who've been a regular, viewers, coming to the Q&A session, you'll know that sometimes I try technology and it doesn't work well, but I will try it and I keep trying it. So I'm going to push a button here and I'm going to show you my other screen. So I should disappear and there's like a 15-second lag, maybe. There's definitely a 15-second lag, but I'm not sure if it's synced up with, chat messages. Anyway, I don't mean to get all geeked out here, but the screen that you should be seeing shortly will be of my other monitor, and I have two articles from my website showing. Two different windows are open, and the first one is called Winning Strategy 4, and the second one is called Winning Strategy 5. The Winning Strategy 4 is called Winning Strategy 4 is called Special Events Winning Advantages, and Winning Strategy 5 is something similar, which is Reliable Holiday Patterns. I've got 7, 8, depending on how you count them. I stopped numbering them after a while, of these winning slots advantages. And going back to what I said a few moments ago, or at least pointing back to that, this isn't something that's on you to make happen. You are checking to see if the casino is doing this, and then you take advantage. So the casino may not do this, but the modern ones seem to be enjoying to tinker. And we've been having some holidays lately, and we have more coming up. Although you might say that's the difference between a holiday. 2 weekends ago was Chinese New Year, and that's a holiday. And then tomorrow is Super Bowl, which is a special event. So we'll talk about what that means as far as winning. But I wanted to kind of go over these as a reference for you guys in case you hadn't looked into the details of this. They're very relatable, but there are important enough differences that I wanted to write two separate articles on this. Also, by the way, the image on your right, the smaller window, that is what my webpage will look like on a smart device, on a phone, on a iPad, on a what's the Android version, the book, or right, I forget the name of that. I'm a mostly Apple person, but there's right here is a little menu which expands into all this other stuff. Which I think people miss that one button on the iPhone. So if you go to professorslots.com. On your iPhone, you'll see something like this. But if you press that menu button right there, this red area opens up. And some of these are actually categories. So under articles, if you were to click the little arrow over on the side, you would find categories of articles about casinos, about learning. This would be like history stuff. Reviews, where I go to casinos and figure out what's going on there and write it up. Then there's all these strategies I was telling you about. And then I've been building more and more articles about tribal gaming. So, in case you have gone to my website on an iPad, iPhone, Android device, you may have missed this little menu button, in which case you're missing a lot. Also, if you care to subscribe to my email list, I will give you a one-page PDF with my, if we were to click this, maybe I can do that. Try that. Right. You would come here, and any of these green buttons that say get my free report, you would get my top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top tier slot machine gambler. You'll get that immediately, and then, you'll be able to connect to me with emails and all that. So far, over 2,100 people have chosen to take this report, and no complaints so far, which is great. Now, when we talk about special events, this is so I won't feed you this, but on the right side is what it looks like. On the right side is what it looks like on a computer. So all this sort of opens up. You've got something called a sidebar, with just I put a few things there. I'll just scroll down slightly so you can see some of this links to book, some of my recommendations, YouTube channel, all the different places you can listen to my podcast. I have a podcast, and so. But if you were to go over to the special events, and this is how it looks on an iPhone, you actually have to go all the way to the bottom, and all that stuff's on the side on a computer is actually down at the bottom on a smart device. All right. Okay. So that's what I wanted to show you there. Let me put myself back on the screen if I can do that. Every time I get a little better. Hello again. Right. So, if I were to, tomorrow is Super Bowl Sunday, and tomorrow is not a good time to go to the casino because, they know you're going to be there, right? It's a big event. They probably got stuff planned, and, they're 100% on top of that. And you don't want to necessarily be at a casino when they're 100% on top of it. It's a great crowd. It's a lot of fun. But it's not necessarily good for slots. They expect a lot of people, and they have a problem. They have a financial problem. They have a, financial reporting problem. I mean, we have, I hope we have, I hope you have, gaming records, right? Your record keeping for your gaming. Some of this is I'm going to talk a little bit why you need some of that. It's not just for tax preparation. Of course, that's coming up. Start your gambling record keeping. I have a episode 2-3 ago, on the live Q&As. Start now for next year, for your taxes next year, because you can write down what happens at these special events in that. It's not needed for tax preparation purposes, but it does help you keep a record of, well, next time I won't go because it was that bad, or next time I will go, don't forget to go because it's so great. You need to find out what your casino is doing and remember next year. Or you can just guess, but, and maybe you even have your records from last year and you can, decide whether you go this year. So there's special events. There's all kinds of them. There's the ones we all know of, holidays. There's the ones we, may know, Derby Day. It was a shock to me. There's a thing called Derby Day. All right. It's during the, Kentucky Derby, and everybody just crowds over to the casino wearing these most awesome hats, having this terrible tasting Jubilee drink. And the casino's just packed. I mean, that's the one day there will be no parking spot left. All right. People parking on the side of the road. But it's a fantastic experience, except you wouldn't really want to play slot machines then, but it's a fantastic experience. So, watch out for that. It's a special event. And what I'll talk about here is, what are they? And why are they special? And when do they occur? So some of this I know the answer because some of these events are national, but some of these events are also local, right? Derby Day, Chinese New Year, that kind of moves around a little bit, based on the moon. You need to find out when some of these things are. Some years they're every day, every same time. But sometimes they move around. And what are the special events that take place at your casino? Because there's going to be somewhere, it's the end of the month and they've been promoting all month, having the drawing of the car on the 31st of whatever. Like yesterday was a Friday, the 31st. And maybe the whole month they were trying to build up excitement to get people to come out for the big drawing that everybody's been trying to get entries into, for all of January. It could have been at one of your casinos, not at others. You have to find out what's being done locally. But we can talk about other stuff. Quickly checking the chat. Let's see, back to, Getcha, Woof UWU. Do you watch Game Shakers? Thank you. I like my glasses too. I'm not sure what you mean by game shakers. Some of there are some terms, people have been using. I have to research later to understand what you mean. Game shakers. What might you mean by that? I don't know. Is that a YouTube channel? Is that a technique? I don't understand that term. Let's see. Jingwalk. John, have you had success? If you want, gotcha. If you want to make a comment on exactly what you mean by game shakers, just don't understand that term. Right. So Jingwalk. John, have you had success playing reduced lines on machines that give that option? Actually, yes. I was up at, what is it? Not Hard Rock. Jack, Cleveland. And I went into high limit room, and I was looking around, and just trying to assess things, see things how we're going. It was very busy. It was very nice. I got a positive assessment. I never wrote it up because I was just trying to see what it was like there. Actually, I was there with, my internet lawyer, who, did great work, and I paid him, and then he said, let's go have dinner at the casino and you can show me around. But we went into the high limit room, and there was a gentleman there saying, I love to play one bet on 5 credit maximum machines on high limit machines. So he doesn't have to pay taxes. He gets the full $1,000. I mean, there's a possibility he might go over $1,200, so it's taxable, because the highest jackpot on a high limit machine might cross over that. But if he got the second highest, he wouldn't. He knows that because he's playing a machine where one bet doesn't win that much. And he's also paying less. This was about 3 years ago. And, if that isn't the most common thing in the world these days, what's a $6 bet on a penny machine? Right? You're paying, you're making a high limit bet on a penny machine. And it's what on a high limit machine would be one line, one credit. And so what you're talking about is pretty common. Example, a machine might be 30 lines max, and you could play 15 at a higher bet per line as a value bet. Absolutely. I have whole discussions on that. One of the things is, there's no pressure. There's no pressure on how much your bankroll is. There's no pressure on how much you want to make, the dollar value of your bet. If you've got 20 bucks, you can make it last hours by choosing the right number of credits in the right denomination to get you 100 or 120 bets. Right? It's just math. If you have the bankroll to play a high limit machine, and I spent a lot of time playing high limit machines, you don't have to. I mean, it really does depend on your goals. So I got a couple articles on that topic. Wise version. If you hit the service button for a casino employee to watch your game for 10 minutes or more, depending on business, I noticed that they will remove my card and insert his. Possibly flags the network percentage. Maybe. That's not what, there's more than one way to lock the machine. You could have the slot attendant stand there and wait for you to come back. That's not very efficient. I have to wonder how many casinos actually do that. Because what I've seen, at Horseshoe, so any Caesars entertainment property would be doing this, was they would, put their card in, they would punch a few numbers, and then, your card would get slid in, and your card would be taken out, and the machine is locked. And the only way to unlock it is 2 ways to unlock it. One is you put your player card back in. So there's no player card in it for 10 minutes. Then, or, I think they give you like 15 minutes. It might be 10, but I think it's 15 minutes. And if you're not back by 15 minutes, then it automatically clears. It's just something that people don't use very often. Now, will it or will it not change the winning percentage? Because, is it idle or is there a player's card in it? There's no way to know without trying. And you'd have to try it a lot. And that's not terribly practical for me to take a lot of breaks and have a machine locked a lot. Might ruin my rep at a casino. So, it's hard to say. That's a good question. There's a lot of things that can cause the odds to change, like they change paper or your card's out. You win a taxable jackpot and it's not your not your card in there. Sometimes it's coming back and forth, but the rule seems to be 2 minutes. So I'm not too concerned about, paper changing and service, because if you keep your card in, right up until the slot mechanic comes along and you get back. And if it is 2 minutes, then you're going to be fine. But whether it's 15 minutes while it's locked, that's very difficult to say. Have to actually check it. Why is Richard, like you say, never remove your card during winning sessions, even if you have to pee? Don't pee. I'm not going to sit in your chair if you do that. Or get more cash. Yeah. I mean, you can, one of the things that I advise in my chapter on, thriving in the casino environment is there's lots of great reasons to take somebody with you, but somebody you trust. Catherine, does it make a difference if you keep playing a winning machine with your card in, but cash out your ticket in, ticket out, and insert a new bill? I've never seen anything like that. It really is. A related question would be: let's say I'm not using my player's card, but I've got money in the machine. Does it count when the money is in the machine? My card never is in the machine. I'm pretty sure it has to be idle. So I think that means that, I think the casinos interpret that to mean, no money in the machine. Now, if it's 20 cents, I'm not sure. These are all things that you need to test, but, I suggest using your card unless you're doing historic horse racing machines in Kentucky, or you have pretty solid evidence that it's not, that it's hurting you, or the rewards club doesn't have anything that you might want. But, free food, most anybody would want. Anyway, if you choose to use a player's card, then you're most safe from the player percentages being changed with or without cash. If you put more cash, if you take the cash out, you just have to have one or the other in. Larry, when you say taxable jackpot, in the UK, we don't have to pay tax on gaming profits. That is also true in the United States, in some states. So we have the federal, which is optional. We have gambling taxes. It's optional at the time of the win. Then there's state, which Nevada doesn't have any, but others have different amounts, and some say, well, you have to live in the state. So there's all different kinds of rules. That's why I have 56 articles on every U.S. state, territory, and our federal district. And I'm coming to you, UK, at some point to check out yours. I've already started digging into Canadian provinces and their gaming regulations, but I need to continue expanding. For instance, Philippines is the hotbed for slots right now, in the world. All these new casinos coming in, and nobody knows anything, in that society much about slot machines. So there's all big mysteries, but I need to expand my gaming regulations knowledge base outside of just the U.S. And I've been digging into California, and I'll, haven't put an order on which gaming regulations I'll start on, but, coming for you, UK. Jingwalk, if I'm playing at 3 cents and my cash out the machine will sit for a time, at 3 cents, then it will reset to 1 cent. Oh, okay. I think I went looking through every gaming regulations that I could find, all the states in the United States. And I went looking through the regulations, and I could not find this rule somebody told me that was in the regulations about 15 minutes having to be idle before they can change the odds. But I started having problems with that almost immediately. 15 minutes? When is a slot machine on a busy night ever idle for 15 minutes? 2 minutes, maybe. Not 15 minutes. And so I started having problems with this rumor, and I got been having some conversations and some insights from people who say they have insights, and it's starting to make a little bit more sense, which is it's a lot less time than that. If it's a lot less time, then what time is it? So I know that it probably isn't more than 15 minutes, but I have fairly good understanding from the contacts that I've been making that it could easily be 2 minutes. So that not only tells me it could be 2 minutes, but it also tells me it's variable by casino. So if you have an idea that your casino, you may find out how many minutes it is at your casino. You know, there's no gaming regulation forcing it to be a particular number. It's just casino by casino business practice. That's true for all my gaming strategies. What does your casino do? You can determine whether it's a new casino or an old casino, so you can start ruling out what's possible for them to implement. But keep your eyes out. Another thing I will say, I have said, is I'm not trying to feed you fish. I'm trying to teach you to fish. Okay? So take it under advisement. Try to figure out what the time is on yours, or at least don't ignore it if it comes across you. So was there any more to your question? No. Larry, when I was there last year, one of our group won $67,000 within 15 minutes of us arriving. He had to spend about 2 hours filling out forms. Well worth it. If you're talking, okay, so the reason why he spent 2 hours filling out forms is, I can guess, it was a progressive jackpot. I've won $27,000. Just push a button. There it is. It took little more than the usual amount of time. Anything over $10,000 in the United States, it can't be the usual process. And I've written all this process down in articles on my website about what happens when you win a jackpot, both behind, what does a slot attendant do? What does you do? What's the different responsibilities? What does the machine do? It locks up, So I've documented all that. It's in the book or it's in articles on my website, all free. Not the book, but book's pretty cheap. But when you go over $10,000, the jackpot is one hit, one jackpot over $10,000. It can't be processed by one slot attendant who then calls over another slot attendant to check the work, to check the paperwork. The second person has to be the floor manager. People wearing the suits, and they have to come over, and that gets heard. I saw, mine was processed at 4:30 in the morning, and by a slot attendant and a floor manager. And then I went in my usual time in the other evening, not this person's shift, and there was another floor manager, and I said hello, because I try to say hello to everybody who might give me insights. And he said, "Oh, I remember you. I remember your paperwork when it came through." So there's a lot of scrutiny that goes on. But it doesn't take 2 hours. It takes the usual amount of time, which can be as long as 20 minutes. Because it's 2 hours, I would say, well, what could it be? Maybe it was, not a U.S. citizen. No, the only thing I can think of is it was progressive jackpot, because when you have a network of progressive jackpots, they have to actually call the other casino that's involved if it's a networked progressive jackpot, and then they all have to meet at whatever time in the evening it is. And I've heard 8 hours. I've heard people having to wait 8 hours, but that might have been like $1 million progressive jackpot. So yeah, $67,000, wait 2 hours. It's not comfortable. It's not, every square foot at a casino is making money if it has a slot machine on it. If it doesn't have a slot machine on it, what the heck? Why wouldn't it have one? So when you go into the back areas of casinos, they're tiny. So that person, I suspect if they, let him walk about, that's one thing. But if they took him into a room, it was probably a hard chair in a corner in a brick walled sort of room. It's a tough place to be for 2 hours. Okay. Now, UK and Canada make nice. Canada says, Catherine says that Canada has no, taxes either. But in the US, you can get them back if you do good record keeping, particularly if you spend it all later. That's something of the point. So it's all different ways. This is the sort of thing that's going to slow me down a little bit, going to other countries is, understanding the tax law in other countries. But yeah. Right. Thank you, Catherine. Yes. Ontario, Canada. Let's see. So Wise Version mentioned there's TITO, the trigger in, trigger out is called retrigger, written to know their author's book. Right. I talked to Eric Rosenthal. We had, Gamblepalooza at Foxwoods, April, less than 2 years ago. He knows somebody, in higher up. He has a contact higher up in the slot manufacturing world. And he was the only person at that table who actually understood some of the stuff that I'd figured out. But he knew it because a slot manufacturer executive told him, or he had asked and they had discussions about it. The machine is cleared in at least one sense of the word when you get your cash out, when you push the cash out button, use a ticket in, ticket out device to have a voucher. It's not really a voucher, a ticket. The machine does have a clearing process, whether or not the player's card is removed. It's not prominent. It's not a way to win. I didn't write it up as a winning strategy because it kind of isn't. But if the casino has a winning strategy of offering a taste, in the first few bets, that's one way to trigger that taste. But there's more than one way to, more than one thing you want to do, because if you take any new person sitting down, activates, we want to give this person a taste. We don't necessarily want to give somebody a taste when they spent all their money and they put another 20 in. Because, what's the odds of that being the same player? We don't want to give the same player two tastes. That initial win to get them going and spend all the money they brought too, as well as that. So yes, you can, ticket out, and ticket in. I've done a lot of that. I never saw much of a change. It never stood out as being a winning thing to do. There is something going on. It does help a little bit, but I found better things to work on. And it has a problem. A pretty serious problem. You can use all the paper in the machine. There's a lot of paper, but you can do a lot of ticket in, ticket out. So you could use all the paper, and then guess what? It needs to be serviced. And maybe they'll get to it, maybe they won't. And maybe it's a winning machine. So, I told you before about having a winning machine, playing as long as possible. One of the things you have to do is not fill it with cash. Take all the paper. It will run out if you do any of that, if you want a grueling 12-hour session. So I reduce how much ticket I use. I reduce how much cash I put in. If it's a winning machine, it just means I'm, just working with my bankroll. But see, in many states, there's an upper limit on how much the machine will hold. And it varies. In Ohio, it's $3,000. In California, it's $800. They just don't let it hold more. And so if you got to $3,000, so let's say you put in $2,500 and you won a $500 jackpot on a high limit machine. I've done it. It goes up to $3,000. Great. Now what if you win $10? Make a $10 bet and win 25. Well, what's the difference? 15. It'll spit out a ticket automatically with 15. So anytime you go over the 3,000, it'll put out the difference. So the balance remains 3,000 and you get a ticket in, ticket out for that difference. Now, of course, if in the United States, if it's over $1,200 on a single bet, then that'll trigger a hand pay, which is the tax form. But if you get over $800 is it Nevada? This was a call that I answered for, You Can Bet on That, a great podcast, wonderful podcast for the recreational gambler. Not terribly about slots, but when they have occasional slots question, I'll call in and the next time they'll show it. But one of the problems that can happen is, not problems, the state by state, they can choose, okay, if you win $800, there's going to be a hand pay. It's just not taxable. Not Immediately so. The $1,200 or more is a requirement that things be taxed right then. You get a tax form W-2G. That's what happens. But if you win $800 in, I think it's California, might have been Nevada. I'm trying to remember where the caller called in from. Then it causes a hand pay, and people are like, oh, look, a hand pay. Well, there's going to have to pay taxes on that. Not necessarily. Sometimes they, if it's $1,200 or more, it is a taxable one. Anyway, I'm going on too much about that. You're welcome, Catherine. Steve, are bonuses predetermined by random number generators when you win? The technical answer, is no, but you may not understand what I mean by that. When you push the button, everything is determined. There's no second stage. Okay. There's no, well, when I see this, then it calculates that. No, everything is done when you push the button on a class 3 slot machine, because it's a game of chance. It is not a class 2, which is where you have to actually make a choice. So everything's determined at the press of the button, even the bonuses. Any one of the bonuses, they're all determined, if you have a skill-based game, like video poker. So there is no recalculation after you get your first round and you choose your cards and it proceeds from there. Every possibility was calculated once at the push of the button, and they just use that database. All right. My Lisa won a progressive jackpot, the Willy Wonka golden ticket. It took way longer to reset due to key under the machine, added more staff to reset the progressive. Yeah, but that's not waiting to be paid. I think, Larry wasn't asking about, well, we had to wait 2 hours before we can continue to play on that machine. Yeah. Okay. That's very insightful. Wise version. I appreciate that, Richard. I appreciate that. I thought about buying slot machines, but everything I could possibly afford at the moment would be 5-10 years old. And then I'd have slot machines. It's okay. I can privately own them in Ohio, and there's a great place called Gambler's Paradise, maybe 10-15 miles away, something like that, where, I probably shouldn't say stuff like that, where you can buy, and they'll ship to anywhere in the country as long as it is legal to privately own a slot machine. And if, as the owner told me, and if you got a friend in the next state over where it is legal, we'll ship it to him for you. I'm like, whoa, let's all stay honest here. Larry, 2 hours were because we were from really. All right. I suppose they were trying to figure out what the taxes would be. No, I'm starting to push my button a little bit. Why aren't they prepared? I'm so sorry, Larry. Wise Virgin, activated taste during first few bets. Yeah. Interesting to you address more into this, something called the attract mode. It's just terms. Attract mode, sounds like a marketing term, honestly. Which is not a bad thing. Well, what's that? Well, give me money, I'll explain. I just try to explain things. Taste seems to be what people understand. Be interesting to know what other people call these things, but it is actually very hard to have the advantaged players talk about anything. They're just so tight-lipped. I've tried, even earlier today, I explained to myself, I try to explain to people when I talk to them, ways of expressing myself. And one of them is, do you remember that magician who had the black mask, who gave away the magician's secrets? They'd show you the trick and saw the girl in half, and then they'd turn the stage around and it's all open, and they say, see, she's, very flexible. She, crawls through this hole and goes over there, and, and he explains the trick. And all the other magicians get mad at him for explaining the trick because, nobody wants to watch a magician's trick if they know how it works. It's all magician stuff. And because that forces them to have to learn new tricks, and can be arduous. and inexpensive. So I'm explaining. So I'm a magician with the black mask, and I'm telling you how it works. Wise Virgin in North Carolina. Wise Virgin, get somebody else a chance. In North Carolina, the Harris slots will not hold more than $2,000. Okay, so $2,000 in North Carolina, $800, I think, in California, $3,000 in Ohio. You just work within those limits, but whatever it is, I just didn't want you to be confused by it. All right. More than 2,000 cashed out. Voucher will have to walk up to the cashier in person. Yeah, that's the other thing, that's worth pointing out. Thank you, Wise Virgin, Richard. If you have a voucher that's over a certain amount, let's say you put you have $100 bills. You put $100 bills in, to the slot machine. Maybe you put $3,000 in, and you do maybe it allows that, and you, if you're in Ohio and you cash out and you got a voucher for $3,000, do you take it over to the little machine that will spit out that much money? No, you have to go to the cashier. Now, if you say so, Larry, I worry about certain things, which no need to talk about here. Jingwalk. Should we be aware of the little light stack on top of the machine? It flashes red if service is requested, but does it blink while it's getting low on paper? Jingwalk. No, it does not. However, look again. Look at your candle again. It's called a candle. The light stack, because you said it yourself. Light stack. There's more than one light, right? There's a red one and there's a white one. I recently found out what the white one means in Missouri. It means in a casino, for them, that casino, it means the machine was just opened by a slots mechanic and the odds were adjusted. The casino slot attendant told me. I said, what's all those white lights? Well, a slot mechanic opened it up, adjusted the odds, closed the door. This is a place where they don't have a remote server because, the floors are, the hull of a moored boat. And I also checked to see if it had been renovated, since 2012, and talking to employees that have worked there for 8 years. No, it had not. These are all the investigative things I do when I review a casino. But, the white light, not the reddish or yellowish light, is an indication at that casino that the door of the slot machine had been opened, and it goes out the first time somebody makes a bet on that machine. Now, how might you use this information? Was it the odds adjusted? Were they improved? Were they decreased? Why isn't anybody playing it? How often do they change these odds? And how long was the light been, is this a way to tell when a machine hasn't been played for a while? Because that's a technique. So I think about, what that means. Take another look at your light stack and see if you can figure out, or ask a slot attendant, what do the different colors mean if there's more than one color? Because you might be able to find some use out of that. I just know the one in Missouri, and I just know the one light here in Ohio. So there's more going on out there, but ask. Get chatty with the slot attendants. It's to your benefit. Be nice. Wise Virgin was told by an insider accountant better to play a machine that was not played for 15 minutes or more. I see. Thank you for explaining that. I would say that you want to look to see if that applies to your casino, right? If you were told that 10 years ago, then it won't apply. If it was told recently, it applies. It could, you have to check everything, right? That's what I say. Check everything. I just don't see how that's going to work, though, honestly. If it's in a track mode, how's that even possible? Someone has to actually play it for it to show that it's a winner. Sitting idle. Well, I guess it might be another way of expressing my 5-pull method. If the casino does a taste, then the casino does a taste. And so the new player, if you can convince it is a new player by using a player's card or using the ticket in, ticket out, then you can collect tastes. That's my 5-pull method. But, there is another, advantage play that doesn't necessarily go along with that. And it can be just just this other one. But when it's both a taste and this other one, that's what you're looking for, because that's bigger jackpots. And I have seen where the longer a machine is idle, the more likely it'll have a bigger jackpot fast. It was at a casino that didn't have tastes. It was at a casino where the slot machine being idle meant that you won. It's like the difference between my winning strategies that I was telling you about, or I don't know how far we'll get to that, about there being special events and there being holidays. Well, why didn't I just write one article about special events and holidays? Because there's enough of a difference that it matters. The details matter. Yeah, that is one that I just tell people, see if your casino does taste. And if you can find slot machines at that casino which haven't been played for a while, that's even better. And I just leave it at that. Okay. Right. So I wanted to cover at least a little bit of special events. A special event is anything your casino does. It can include holidays, but watch out for holidays, because some holidays are not people don't show up. People aren't there on Christmas morning. So special events are special events where there are crowds. Just crowds. And it may also be something that isn't advertised very much, or at least not to you. It might be for the high limit. It might be for everybody who's a player, but maybe you're visiting a casino and you don't know if it's a special event. So special events are whatever the casino says it is, whatever they do to cause a crowd to appear. All right. So now we define special events. And what's so special about them? There's a difficulty for casinos. Nothing's perfect. Accounting takes time, and there's a lot going on at a casino, a lot of money flowing in, flowing out, flowing around. And so they can't perfectly handle the money flow on a busy night. They're close, but they're not perfect. And close means they could be off by $100,000. And the gaming regulator, and if they're off the wrong way, this is my whole point. If they're off the wrong way, if they have given back too much, then they're going to have to make $100,000 from anybody who comes in during the slow days that follow that busy Sunday event. And so on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when they all together on those days, they might have half as much as actually came back on Sunday. They're going to have to take that money in order to meet their requirements with the gaming regulations. That's just a nightmare. The locals get upset. Those that come in during the week. The gaming regulations, regulators get upset because maybe the casino can do that. Maybe they can't do that. Reputation just all over the place. And there's a simple solution. Don't give back enough. Avoid giving back too much on a busy night. The casino avoids giving out jackpots as much as they need to. They just get close, but they don't go over. And then when they've had a couple of hours to process the receipts and people have started to leave because it's 2:00 in the morning and they start processing this stuff, right around 4:00 in the morning, they have to give back some cash. A couple of jackpots and they balance. Boom. And that's what you want to take advantage of. That's what special events, taking advantage of special events are. It's not the busy night. It's not the big promotion that they invited you to. It's right after the next morning and early. Okay. Believe it or not, a lot of people go into a casino before work and they're there at 5:30. You want to beat them. When you have to find out when they occur. Let's see what else. Implementing it. I just told you about that. This is a trend. Let's see. Right. The amount of time it takes for them to handle the processing of all the money and understanding electronically what's happening, because it is all electronic. It used to be paper. So this technique didn't work at an older casino because of a lot of paper. And that might take 10 days to 7 days, 5 days to process everything that happened at a big event. So they've gotten better at processing, but they're not yet real time. And I want to acknowledge that trend from paper to now only taking 4 hours or so, maybe a little bit less, that's going to shorten. It might take 10 years. It might take 5. Once they get other technologies involved, then you might find that they can process it very quickly and they don't have to give back on the next morning. So there are slow changes in some of these winning techniques. Take advantage now while they still exist. As I get more popular and casinos find out about these winning strategies, I wonder what they're going to do about it. There's the analogy of card counting in that movie 21, where people started wearing disguises and this and that and the other things which you could do back then, not so much now. And so there's going to be a little back and forth. This is not a stable, it's not a static, unchanging business practice. Even the last couple of years, it's been amazing on the slow changes, and we got to keep up. I tell people, another person I talked to today was, when I graduated from high school, I never saw a computer. I saw a terminal where you plug in a phone in the back and you use a fax line to communicate with a computer in a big room. But I never actually saw a computer. And look at me now, I'm streaming to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. And I've got this, that, people, website, podcast. We learn, we keep track. So I'm going to take a look at some of the questions. Let's see. Okay, so WISE version for Western North Carolina, which is basically North Carolina because that's where the casinos are. A non-special holiday. That would be interesting. If you want to share, everybody, what's a non-special holiday? What's a special event, at your casino that kind of a local thing? That would be, they got pretty serious about Chinese New Year in California, but people I was talking to there on one of the previous Q&A sessions, I didn't hear much about it here, but I wasn't actually there that day. I was here. Let's see. Non-special holiday, least busiest day for our isolated Western North Carolina casinos is Easter weekend. Dead and least employees. Sure. It's funny. You should say, I was concerned when I first started winning a lot, and I have a very religious coworker. And I was like, well, do you think my church and church going friends will be upset? And he said, gambling is a big part of religion. And I was like, oh, that's right. Not to mention, there's a lot of praying going on in casinos. It's almost church-like in a way, given the amount of praying. Anyway, that was his comment, and it was just funny. Right. Jingwalk, an advantage play to play a machine that is malfunctioning. Oh, I wouldn't waste your time on that. There's two kinds of I should read the rest of this. Players club card not reading, screen display issues, sound bad, might discourage players, therefore not being played as much as other slots. If a machine has an error, you run the risk of winning something and they come back and saying the machine had an error. You don't get it. That sort of thing's in the news. Okay. It's bad for the casino not to honor it, but they still will, particularly if you win the top jackpot of the $1 million megabucks and they come back and they say, well, it was malfunctioning. So you might win the small jackpot, but you have a risk of losing it because they won't honor it because it was malfunctioning. They check the chip on these things, and like the 67,000 earlier. You check the machine, to make sure it wasn't a fault. And then the casino has a tough problem, which is what exactly do they do, to try to honor it, maintain their reputation. And some people, some casinos have stood by their guns and got ripped by the media. And others have said, well, it wasn't that part of the machine just because it had a paper out condition or you're running a risk, and anything you win has to be small. Otherwise, as the amount goes up, the risk goes up too, to the point where, you're kind of wasting your time and maybe your money because you're not going to get your money back. All right. Larry, on your point, I often watch soccer in the casino in Vegas because of the time difference. It's 4:30 a.m. in Vegas time, and often I have an article for you, which is, it's hard to bring these things up really quickly. If you go to my website and you do the search button and look and put in Las Vegas, I've gotten some very good tips and did some analysis, and my goodness, it is so, and I also explain why. During the week, which sounds like what you're talking about, it is so much better odds, particularly downtown. And one of the tips that I got from the Facebook group, one of the Facebook groups that I have, they just tried some of my tips and they had a great time. And is that it's just terrible on the weekends because they're trying to get the people coming from California, but during the week they're helping the locals, or at least, not turning the locals away. And together they have tight weekends and loose weeks, but the weekend starts like Friday morning. So if, go during the week. Also, they said the locals know which machines have the better odds. The locals go downtown and the locals smoke. So go downtown during the week in the morning. So you start figuring all this stuff out. And the slot machines, he said, that have full ashtrays. Isn't that something? I thought that was something. Right. So next week I will see if we can talk more about some of the strategies. I'll pick a topic and we'll proceed from there. I hope everybody enjoys the game tomorrow if you're a game watcher. And I probably won't go to the casino on I had planned on going this Sunday, but I don't think I'll go for Super Bowl Sunday. Just stand around. There's no betting. I'm confident of that. But I'm not really available on Monday morning because I have physical therapy. So, yeah. In any case, I want to wish all of you a great weekend, and I will talk to you later. Have fun. Be safe. Make good choices. Thanks. Bye. Remember to visit ProfessorSlots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Up next is the second segment of the show on slot machine casino gambling. Here I provide a brief overview of the current state of gambling in 2 U.S. states, territories, or the federal district, emphasizing by far anything of interest to slot machine casino gamblers. Up next is Indiana slot machine casino gambling in 2019. Here goes. Indiana slot machine casino gambling consists of 11 commercial casinos, 2 pari-mutuel wagering racetracks, and 1 tribal casino. Indiana does not offer payout limits, but does provide annual and monthly return statistics for its non-tribal casinos. The minimum legal gambling age in Indiana depends upon the gambling activity. For casinos, poker rooms, and bingo, it is 21. For the lottery and pari-mutuel wagering, it's 18. Indiana's 1851 Constitution banned lotteries, historically interpreted by courts to mean all gambling. In 1988, Indiana approved a constitutional amendment removing this ban. Within months, cities with economic difficulties had casino proposals. In 2007, Indiana allowed horse tracks to have as many as 2,000 electronic gaming machines. Further, the state legislature approved land-based casinos in 2015. Also in 2015, the state legislature approved a measure allowing riverboat casinos to move into a land-based casino facility if located on their current property. The state of Indiana has a federally recognized American Indian tribe. In 2015, the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians successfully negotiated a tribal state compact, subsequently approved by the U.S. Department of Interior. By the compact's terms, the tribal casino can only have Class II bingo-style gaming machines. In early 2018, the tribe opened its first tribal casino. Next up is a usually short statement about slot machine private ownership, which I have included in case you live in this U.S. state and are considering owning a slot machine. Here it is. In Indiana, it is legal to own a slot machine privately if it is 40 years old or older. The Indiana Gaming Commission, IGC, regulates gaming in Indiana. The IGC offers comprehensive annual reports on all aspects of legal gaming in Indiana. Indiana's 2 other gaming commissions regulate the Hoosier Lottery and Indiana horse racing. The Indiana Gaming Commission has a law enforcement arm called the Gaming Control Division. Its primary role is to investigate illegal gambling. Enforcement of illegal gambling at bars and taverns is by the Indiana Alcohol and Tobacco Commission. In this section, I'll discuss Indiana gaming establishments. There are 11 commercial casinos, 2 pari-mutuel racetracks with slot machines, and 1 American Indian tribal casino in Indiana. The largest casino in Indiana is Horseshoe Casino Hammond, with 2,123 gaming machines, 116 table games, and a 34-table poker room. The second largest casino is Indiana Grand Racing Casino, with 2,020 gaming machines. Indiana's 13 non-tribal casinos include its original 10 riverboat casinos, an additional land-based casino, and 2 pari-mutuel wagering racetracks with slot machines. As usual, when there are too many casinos to mention here, a complete list along with links to their websites, assuming they've set one up, is available on my blog article for this state at professorslots.com/IN. Indiana's tribal casino is the Four Winds Casino South Bend, located 150 miles north of Indianapolis, directly east of Chicago on the border to Michigan. It offers 1,800 Class II competition-style gaming machines alongside live poker tables. Poker has been interpreted in Indiana as a skill-based game, and therefore just another Class II game. It is considered a competition-style game as players bet against each other and aren't betting against the house or casino. As an alternative to enjoying Indiana slot machine casino gambling, consider exploring casino options in a nearby state. Bordering Indiana is to the north, Michigan, to the east, Ohio, to the south, Kentucky, and to the west, Illinois. To visit any of my articles on these U.S. states, simply visit professorslots.com followed by its 2-letter postal designation. For example, my Michigan slots article is available at professorslots.com/MI. Are you interested in sharing and learning with other slots enthusiasts in Indiana? If so, join our Indiana Slots community on Facebook at professorslots.com/FBIN. All you'll need is a Facebook profile to join this private Facebook group freely. There, you'll be able to privately share your slots experiences as well as chat with players about slots gambling in or near Indiana. Again, use this convenient link I've created to go directly to our group on Facebook, professorslots.com/FBIN. Join us. Indiana has no set minimum or maximum theoretical payout return limits. Monthly and annual return statistics are available, although none are available from the tribal casino. The annual reports detail return statistics by slot machine denomination. The IGC's 2019 annual report has electronic gaming device, EGD, coin in on page 41. The next page has EGD win. Divide win by coin in, then subtract the result from 100% to calculate a player's win percentage. For your convenience, I have calculated the mid-2018 through mid-2019 player win percentages for each casino. In addition to an annual report, the Indiana Gaming Commission also offers monthly revenue reports by the 11th of the following month. Again, use coin in and win to calculate the player's win percentage. Unlike the annual reports, these monthly reports do not contain return statistics by slot machine denomination. The mid-2018 through mid-2019 statewide annuals players' win percentage is 90.52%. The monthly statewide players' win percentage was slightly less at 90.45%. Further, I've calculated and placed the latest annual and monthly player win percentages for each casino in my article at professorslots.com/IN. The casino with the highest annual return was French Lick. The highest monthly return went to Rising Star. It's worth mentioning that French Lick held the second highest annual return and Rising Sun the third highest in the previous year. The casino with the lowest annual return was, once again this year, Tropicana, Evansville. Its monthly return was the second lowest, while Majestic Star 2 had the lowest. In summary, Indiana slot machine casino gambling consists of 10 riverboat casinos, 1 land-based casinos, 2 pari-mutuel racetracks with slot machines, and a tribal casino with Class II bingo-style gaming machines. Indiana's casinos don't operate under theoretical payout limits. However, non-tribal casinos have annual return statistics by casino and slot machine denomination. Monthly return statistics are by the casino only. In the last year, Horseshoe Casino Hotel Southern Indiana became Caesars Southern Indiana. Hoosier Park has become Harrah's Hoosier Park Racing and Casino. Remember to visit professorslots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Up next is the second state comprising this episode segment, Iowa slot machine casino gambling in 2019. Here goes. Iowa slot machine casino gambling consists of 16 riverboat casinos, 4 tribal casinos, and 3 pari-mutuel racetracks with slot machines. Payout return minimum and maximum limits have been legally set for 4 tribal casinos, but none exist for the 19 commercial casinos. However, payout return statistics are available for those commercial casinos. The minimum legal gambling age in Iowa does not depend upon the gambling activity. For land-based casinos, poker rooms, bingo, the lottery, and pari-mutuel wagering, the minimum legal gambling age in Iowa is 21. Iowa has had a steady progress towards various forms of legalized gambling, sometimes the first state in the nation to offer them via constitutional amendments. This timeline includes 1972, games of chance, such as bingo and raffles; 1983, pari-mutuel wagering at racetracks; 1985, state lottery; 1989, excursion boat gambling approved; 1991, riverboat gambling boats opened, first in the nation. 1992, tribal state compacts approved for tribal casinos. 1994, slot machines allowed at pari-mutuel wagering sites. 2004, permanent mooring of riverboat casinos allowed. 2005, many new licenses granted for new riverboat casinos. Iowa is at the forefront of the gambling industry with regards to legalized gambling. It was the first state to legalize riverboat casinos. Also, they were the first to legally allow both slot machines and table games at pari-mutuel racetrack facilities. By doing so, they created the first so-called racinos. In mid-2017, the IRGC requested gaming market analysis studies from 2 independent contracting companies. These comprehensive Iowa gaming market studies became publicly available in October 2017. The negotiated and approved tribal state gaming compacts for Iowa's 3 federally recognized tribes is available at Indian Gaming Compacts within the Indian Affairs Division of the U.S. Department of the Interior. Regarding slot machine private ownership, in Iowa it is legal to own a slot machine privately if it is 25 years old or older. The Iowa legislature created the Iowa Racing and Gaming Commission, IRGC, with the passing of the Pari-Mutuel Wagering Act of May 1983. The IRGC administers this act and the Excursion Boat Gambling Act of 1989, which legalized riverboat casinos. There are 16 riverboat casinos, 4 tribal casinos, and 3 pari-mutuel wagering racinos in Iowa. The largest casino in Iowa is Prairie Meadows Racetrack and Casino with 1,682 gaming machines and 50 table games. The second largest casino is Ameristar Casino Hotel, Council Bluffs, with 1,526 gaming machines and 26 table games. There are 19 commercial casinos in Iowa, including riverboat casinos and pari-mutuel wagering racetracks with slot machines. As usual, when there are too many casinos to mention here, a complete list along with links to their websites, assuming they've set one up, is available on my website blog article for this state at professorslots.com/IA. The 3 tribal casinos in Iowa are 1. Blackbird Bend Casino in Ottawa, located 35 miles southeast of Sioux City near the Nebraska border. 2. Meskwaki Bingo Casino Hotel in Tama, located 64 miles northeast of Des Moines. And 3. Winnevegas Casino Resort in Sloan, located 27 miles south of Sioux City near the Nebraska border. As an alternative to enjoying Iowa slot machine casino gambling, consider exploring casino options in a nearby state. Bordering Iowa is to the north, Minnesota, to the east, Wisconsin and Illinois, to the south, Missouri, and to the west, Nebraska and South Dakota. To visit any of my articles on these U.S. states, simply visit professorslots.com followed by its 2-letter postal designation. For example, my Minnesota slots article is available at professorslots.com/MN. No payout return statistics are available from Iowa's tribal casinos. However, both minimum and maximum theoretical payout limits exist. These limits are 80% and 99%, respectively, over the expected lifetime of the device. No legal limits exist for theoretical payout returns on slot machines for Iowa's commercial casinos. However, the IRGC makes return statistics available at casino payback percentages. This one-page PDF provides an average payout return for each casino for the last 3 months. For the last 3 months ending in November 2019, the highest return went to Prairie Meadows at 91.8%. This casino's players' win percentage was a full point higher than the next casino return. Lakeside Casino had the lowest players' win percentage at 89%. The IRGC also makes return statistics for commercial casinos available at Gaming Revenue Reports. Here, monthly hold percentages are available by both casino and slot machine denomination as slot revenue percentage. Remember, convert this casino hold percentage to player win percentage by subtracting it from 100%. Iowa slot machine casino gambling consists of 23 commercial and tribal casinos, including pari-mutuel racetracks with slot machines. Theoretical payout limits are 80% and 99% at the 4 tribal casinos, but no theoretical limits exist for the commercial casinos. However, monthly payout return statistics are available for each commercial casino and slot machine denomination. In the last year, Meskwaki Bingo Casino Hotel fell from the second largest casino in Iowa to the 4th largest. Both the Horseshoe and the Maristar casinos in Council Bluffs have surpassed Meskwaki Bingo. Remember to visit ProfessorSlots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Part 1 of the next episode of the Professor Slots podcast is most likely going to be a live Q&A session on YouTube. Remember, my weekly Q&A session on YouTube is on Saturdays from 2 p.m. until 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Bring whatever slots questions you have, and I'll do my best to answer them. An easy-to-remember link to my YouTube channel is ProfessorSlots.com/live. Feel free to stop by anytime during my hour-long Q&A. To suggest a topic or ask a question which might end up as a blog article or on a podcast episode, email it to john@ProfessorSlots, where John is spelled Jon. Part 2 of the next episode of the Professor Slots podcast is another brief overview of the current state of gambling in 2 U.S. states, territories, or the federal district. Next time, I'll be talking to you about the great U.S. states of Kansas and Kentucky in 2020. That's the end of another great episode of the Professor Slots podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Show notes for this episode are now available within most podcast apps, but are also available on my website at ProfessorSlots.com/episode 76. I plan to have the next episode come out very soon for you, where I'll have more amazing content for the show. Until the next episode, have fun, be safe, and make good choices. Bye.